What's up YouTube? My name's David, and thankfully I don't have the coronavirus, so that's good news. In today's video, I am going to show you some very cool bass techniques that I learned as a singer primarily that are actually semi-advanced techniques in the beatboxing world that I have seen some professional beatboxers use and abuse to their limit, and they can be pretty awesome if they're done correctly. So I'm going to give you a very brief description of these techniques, talk about how they work a little bit, how they're used in singing and how they're used in beatboxing, and then I'm going to try my best to give you a little beatboxing snippet using these techniques and featuring them. So without any further ado, let's get things started. The first technique I'm going to show you is probably familiar with many of you, beatboxers especially, but also found sometimes in the choral community, sometimes in the a cappella community, but many times in the world and traditional music communities. This is throat bass, sometimes called Kargyraa or throat singing or Mongolian throat singing. There are many names for it and many different variations of it. However, they are, mechanically speaking, pretty much all the same thing. Many people have suggested that I do this before, so I'm actually doing it in this video. Here's a little diagram of your face, and most importantly, the features that make sound inside your mouth and throat. So for throat bass, or Kargyraa, we are going to use a combination of these two sets of folds. The set of folds, or flaps of skin, lower in our throat are called the regular vocal folds. They are what I'm using right now to speak, and what you use to sing the majority of the time. A bit higher up in your throat are a pair of folds that are a bit larger, a bit more massive, and they tend to vibrate a bit slower. These are called your vestibular folds or your false folds. The Kargyraa, or throat singing technique, or throat bass as the beatboxers call it, uses both sets of folds at the same time. Now there are different variations of this technique using different throat shapes and soft palate shapes to get different sounds, more nasally, more open, more throaty, breathy, etc. But the one I'm using today is pretty standard as far as beatboxing throat bass goes for beginners. So here's a little example of what throat bass sounds like, and please don't bash me for my beatboxing skills. I am definitely a novice, but I give it my best. And you all wanted to hear me beatbox, so let's give it a shot. That last hit of throat bass was actually something that beatboxers call vibration bass, and I know many of you think it's something different, it's a bit lower in the chest. It's actually the same exact thing as throat bass. However, there is one key difference that gives it that super thick sub bass sound. The thing that makes it different from throat bass is actually tied into the next technique that I'm going to show you, subharmonic singing or subharmonic bass. Whenever you create two different sounds in close proximity with each other, you generally get a resultant pitch between the two that can appear, and it's often called now a subharmonic pitch. This is how subharmonic singing is done, which I've shown in many of my previous videos. However, many people are unaware that subharmonics exists in many different avenues and many different variations. In throat bass, where you're using your regular vocal folds and your false folds at the same time, the regular throat bass pitch is actually a first subharmonic. It's one octave below the fundamental pitch that you're singing with your regular vocal folds. If you apply air pressure in a certain way and relax your throat in a nearly indescribable way, you can activate the second subharmonic of throat bass, and that is vibration bass. It is one octave plus 1/5 below your fundamental pitch that you're singing with chest voice with your regular vocal folds. I know that's a lot of information and a lot of nerdy stuff to wrap your head around if you have no idea what I'm talking about, but in case you care, that's how it works. As I mentioned, the next technique that I'm going to show you is the subharmonic vocal technique. This utilizes only your regular vocal folds, and it is currently the common belief for most people that both of your vocal folds are vibrating at different rates at the same time, creating a resultant subharmonic pitch. The first subharmonic is an octave below, the second subharmonic is an octave plus 1/5, the third is 2 octaves below, the fourth is, I forget what that one is, and so on and so forth. This technique is not easy. Very few people can do it extremely well. I would say I am a seasoned veteran at the subharmonic technique compared to most, but I am definitely not a master, admittedly, but I've gotten it down pretty well over the years, I think, but I'm still practicing it and still getting better at it all the time. It is very hard. Do not get discouraged if you're trying to practice this technique and get better at it. There are people like me that have been doing it for 5-6 years that are still not masters. So it's difficult to incorporate in singing, and it is potentially even more difficult to incorporate in beatboxing while trying to make these other percussive sounds at the same time. So let's take a listen at a bass singer's attempt, vocalist, whatever you want to call me, I'm not really a bass, at beatboxing with subharmonics. Always on the ground, always on the ground, always on the ground. Wish I was a young boy. So far we have had one technique that utilizes both sets of our vocal folds and another technique that only uses our regular vocal folds. This next technique, chest bass, also known as growl or fire breathing, utilizes only our false folds by themselves. This is a very unique technique that has some very cool applications, and I'm excited to show it to you. If you are familiar with a cappella groups like Home Free or Pentatonics or Voice Play, you've probably heard people like Tim Faust or Jeff Castellucci or Avi Kaplan hitting these ridiculously low yet extremely breathy and airy notes, and they are using this technique called the growl or fire breathing, as known in the bass singing / a cappella community. However, in the beatboxing community, from what I've been told so far, this is called chest bass. I think it's been called chest bass because it's a very bass pure tone that often can vibrate larger cavities because of its low frequency tendencies, which can vibrate in your chest pretty well. So that's pretty cool. It's very breathy and it's very bass pure, so it works extremely well on mic, and it's a great technique to hit super low notes if you don't have them with your regular chest voice, which is totally fine. Let's take a listen at what chest bass can do for a beatboxing routine. The next technique is very unique, but it also ties into some previous techniques that I talked about. This technique utilizes subharmonics in a completely different way than I've talked about before. This is the vocalized lip buzz. The vocalized lip buzz probably has 30 some different names. I have no idea. I have seen so many different names for techniques that use a lip buzz or lip roll that I honestly don't really know the difference between most of them, except some of them are inhaled and some of them are exhaled. If you know the difference between a lip buzz and a lip roll, please leave a comment below because I've heard a lot of conflicting things so far. So let's try to clarify that and get accurate information out there for everyone to share. Anyways, the vocalized lip buzz that I'm going to show you is unique because when you perform this technique correctly, the most prominent pitch you hear on mic especially is not the lip buzz or the note that I'm singing. It is the resultant subharmonic pitch that's created when you combine the two. If you're able to lip buzz a pitch and then sing a fifth above it, you're going to get a resultant subharmonic pitch that's an octave lower than what you lip buzzed. Likewise, if you sing a pitch and lip buzz a fifth higher, then you're going to get the same result, except it's an octave lower than what you sang. This technique is a great way for many beatboxers, females especially, to extend their range an octave and a half, 2 octaves potentially. Let's take a listen to how potent and how powerful a vocalized lip buzz can be. The last technique I'm going to show you is, well, it's a bit controversial because to me it is inhale singing or ingressive phonation. Some people, beatboxers especially, have called it inward bass, yet other beatboxers I've talked to have said that this is not the inward bass that has been used by Inertia, Audicle, Helium, and a few others as well that have kind of made it famous and their trademark technique. The inhaled bass that I do uses only my regular vocal folds. It has an almost unlimited range, especially on the bottom end, and it's extremely powerful. It produces a ton of volume, and it is extremely useful in the beatboxing community as well as the singing community for a cappella music, choral singing, tribal music, traditional stuff, and the list goes on. It's kind of in its experimental stages because there aren't a lot of people openly using it in anything yet that I know of. However, in the beatboxing world, I think anything is possible. Now, please leave a comment below or message me if you know the answer to this, but I have heard that Inertia and Audicle and Helium are using an inward bass that only uses their false folds. I find this kind of hard to believe because I can't even activate my false folds while inhaling, but maybe it's possible. Anyways, let's take a listen to this last technique and see how it can be used in a nice little beatboxing routine that hopefully isn't trash. Please don't be trash. That's all I have for you in this video today. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. It took forever to make and my voice was completely dead after making it. But that's fine, it's all in good fun and I'm having a great time learning about my voice and learning beatboxing more. It's a great community, it's super enjoyable, and I'm definitely growing as a musician and creator as well. So thank you all for the support. I'm glad you all are liking these videos. I'm trying to put out things that you want to see because you're my audience, and I should put out things that you want to see, so you watch them and have a good time. If you like what I'm doing here, you will probably like to see me on Instagram, I guess, so go check me out there. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notifications when I upload new videos. I'm trying to put out a new video every week this year, which is extremely hard when you work 13 hours a day every day. So let me know what you want to see next, and let me know if you have any more suggestions or comments or information you think I need to know. Leave those in the comments below. Until next time.